Hello, hello. I'm at the Hakuhodo showroom to cover a bunch of brush series. So I'm going to be covering the entire line as they're available in the showroom. Some of the ones I'm going to talk about aren't available online and vice versa. So I'm only going to be talking about what they have in stock so I can show you as they relate to the size of your face and how they would function. So I'm not going to be spending too much time talking about hair type because you can look that up online, but I will be telling you the model numbers so you can go look them up later. Starting with two brushes that are not listed on their website. These are kimono brushes. So this is the kimono angle, and this is the kimono flat. So there's these big brushes with a bit more of a firm goat hair to them, and these are intended for dusting off kimonos to maintain them. These are not available on the website specifically because they don't want people ordering these by accident and using them on their face and not enjoying the feeling of them. But if you have delicate fabrics that you want to take care of and brush, you can call the showroom directly to order these. So now we're going to be moving to their big face brushes. So in comparison to the size of the face brushes and the kimono brushes, here we go. So now the S series overview begins in earnest. So the S series has one angled face brush. This is the S100. It's made of really smooth, silky goat hair, and as you can see, it has a lot of flex. And has this big surface area at the tip, so you can cover a lot of area really quickly. So it's a pretty quick brush for the face, as well as if you need to take makeup down the neck and body. A step down, slightly smaller, is the flat top brush. So this is cut straight across, almost like a square, but still has a tapering dome this way and this way. So you still get quite a lot of surface area. It's just a matter of preference. Do you prefer that angle? So you have a firm side and a less resilient side, or do you prefer it to be uniform all the way across? Because the tip isn't cut at a very sharp angle, you only get a minimal amount of extra precision out of it. So that's the difference between the angled and the flat finishing brushes. And again, this one's quite flexible as well. So you're not going to apply powder too heavily, and it's good for taking down cakiness because as you buff away, it'll remove makeup. So these are both goat. There's a squirrel version of the flat finishing brush. This is the 101. This is the 102. So the difference is a little bit more dramatic than between the angled finishing brush and the flat finishing brush, mainly because squirrel doesn't splay out as much and it's much more flexible. You can see how it takes more time to bounce back. And so the squirrel's going to feel softer and more flexible on the skin because of the hair, and that's because it's not quite as wide, so it doesn't have as much hair packed in there. Size-wise, they're pretty much the same, much as they'll splay out. Also pretty comparable. The difference is when you wash and dry your brushes. This one, if you prefer it to not be so big, you might want to put in a brush guard after you wash and dry it. This one is just how it is. Moving on to the smaller face brushes or the large cheek brushes. I have two round ones here and then two round ones here. So we're going to start with the S104. So as far as the face brush goes, it's not as big as the flat finishing brush. So this one is going to be a little bit more controlled. If you have a lot of surface area to cover, you can do blush with this. Or for me, this is more of a bronzer and powder setting brush. Again, you can splay out pretty big and cover the body if you wanted to. And in this one, using it in circular motions, you get a lot of area coverage. And then you can really blend out makeup if you've over applied it. This is the tapered S103. It's going to be smaller and you have smaller surfaces to work with. So this one works really well for applying blush if you like to do it quickly. And also because of that tip here, you can apply highlight with it as well, or contour if you want to. Next up is the S105. This is like the same as, not the same as these two, but it's like the relationship between these two. The squirrel one's going to be softer, and even though it looks smaller, it still has about the same surface area coverage. You're just going to get in a softer bristle. And you also can't quite pick up hard pan pressed powder with this. So for example, the Guerlain meteorites in the pressed version, those are quite hard and quite compact. So this one might have a little bit more trouble with this. This is ideal for loose finishing powder. And then this one can handle compact finishing powder. The only thing is, like, if you swirl in a pan like that, you're going to get a lot kicked over the rim of the compact, and you're going to have to wipe around the edges to clean that up. Another option you have for powder, bronzer, and other big areas is the S4001. So this is a dual fiber brush. The goat hair end about here, and then 4mm longer synthetic bristles. So this one is very silky feeling because of the nylon hairs. Surface area wise, it's very comparable to the 104. The difference between these two is, as you can see, the flexibility, because the synthetic bristles are buffered by a more resilient goat. It doesn't have as much flexibility, and thus the surface area doesn't actually cover as much. So if this is a large face brush, this will be a medium face brush. So to give you an idea of how much it can cover. Moving on, there's two more round brushes. These are foundation brushes, which can also be found in their G series line. The smaller one is the S555. The bigger one is the S5557. So it's a 2mm clearance between the goat hair and the synthetic bristles, so you're going to get a lot more firmness feeling than the ones with 4mm clearances, or the ones with more than 2mm clearances. So as you can see, the size difference, this one's going to be much faster, but this one's going to give you the ability to do your under eye concealer, to do blush, to do contour, and just really sculpt around the face. So it depends on how much time you want to spend doing your base makeup, and if you want a brush like this for more detail areas or not. So again, 555 and 5555 for the small one. On to the smaller cheek and face brushes. This is the S531. So this could be a small powder brush or a large blush brush. So even though it looks really big, if I turn it on its side like this, it's about the same size as a more regular sized cheek brush. So see here, that width is about the same. So I really do like using this for if I need to do blush quickly, just putting in a pan and then like wiping it on, and then 2 more strokes above, below, and it's blended out. Or I use it on the big side like this for bronzer or sculpting out an area. And then so you can see that nice rounded edge means it blends really, really quickly. Next up is the 110. It's duped in the Masako portable powder, so these two have about the same head. Masako is just ever so slightly smaller, but functionally they're the same. So with this tapered paddle, you get the ability to do blush, as well as to do highlight if you just use the tip. And then you could also do contour. One of my favorite brushes for sure. Next up is the S113 highlight. This again has a little dupe in the Masako portable highlight. And then with these, you can really get underneath your eyes to set powder, as well as use it for highlight and of course blush. So the difference between this highlight brush and this blush brush up is a lot of volume in here. If you have a smaller face, you might appreciate this one. This one, if you use it with a lot of pressure, you might get a little bit too much area coverage. If you really like to control where you place your makeup, like if you do the Korean style of makeup and you really like to layer in very specific areas, this highlight brush will probably work better for you. That's the area of coverage there versus the area of coverage here. And then another highlight brush they have in this range is the S11. This is made of blue squirrel. It's slightly larger, but surface area wise, about the same. Probably only 20% bigger maximum. That's if I'm being very generous. So again, you can do it on the tip for highlight. Turn it a little bit more this way for contour, so you kind of got the scoop shape going on, or use it down the nose and around the eye socket for contouring. And then to give you an idea of what this family of brushes looks like is kind of like this. So you have a large, a medium, and a small-ish. There are smaller sizes in highlight brushes coming right up. So this is the S116. Size comparison wise, now we've got actual big, medium, and small. So the S116 is an even more targeted powder brush, or if you have really big eyelids, for setting powder across. As a highlighter brush, it's very slim, so you're going to get a very thin strip of highlight, and if you blend it out, you can control it from there. But otherwise, this is sort of like a detail face brush. The other two highlight brushes they have in this range are round ones. You have the S5521B and the S5521A. S5521A is straight blue squirrel. The S5521B is goat mixed with horse. So as you would expect, the horse and goat mix is much more resilient, and the squirrel one bounces back slower. And of course, the squirrel one's going to feel softer, but if you want efficiency, the goat one can't be beat. Because of how goat and horse plays out, you get less of a defined taper tip with this one as you do with the highlight brush that's made of pure squirrel. So it's going to be a matter of preference, like how precise do you need it. But if you're looking for precision in a highlight brush, I would go with the small one, S116, because of that difference in the tip shape as well as tip area coverage. So that's all the face and cheek brushes. I'm going to go review them really quickly, and then we'll move on to eye brushes. So we've got the really big kimono brushes for dusting off clothing, especially silk. We've got the S100 angled flat. We've got the S102 flat in squirrel, and we've got the S101 flat in goat. So the S101 and 102 are same this way, but then it's the thickness that's going to be different. And of course, the feel of the brush. And between the S100 and the S101, you get a little bit more surface area with the S100 because that angled parts plays out a little bit more. But otherwise, they're both very big face brushes. Moving on to the round face brushes / cheek brushes. This is going to be your big, medium, and small. Big is going to be S104. Medium is going to be the S4001, and small is going to be the S103 because it's the most capable of blush. This one you could, but it's just better for bronzer, and this one's better for bronzer / setting powder. This one's good for setting powder too, don't get me wrong. So looking at the surface, and then as a comparison, the S104 and S105 are pretty comparable in display. It's just a matter of how soft do you want it. The 5557 is this big, so pretty big. The S5555 is a more detail face brush. The largest of the cheek brushes or smallest of the face brushes is the 531, or this way. And then we have the medium-sized cheek brush, which is the 110, or the Masako Portable. Okay. And then for our highlight brushes, the flat highlight brushes, we have big, medium, and small in the 111, the 113, and the 116. So here's how they rank up size-wise on my cheek. And then tip-wise, they do pretty much taper at the same angle, except for the last one. And if you prefer a round cheek brush or a round highlight brush, if you want a round cheek brush, the S5521A, simply because it plays out a little more and will do blush of just a tiny bit faster. And then the S5521B, this one will be more firm. So as you can see, the difference in that surface area is quite dramatic, even though the brushes are the same size. And I forgot to mention again the Masako Portable Highlight, which is on par with the S113. So that concludes the face brushes. We're going to move on to eye brushes now. There's 3 round eye brushes I have for you here, again in sizes large, medium, and small. So the S142 is sort of your medium-sized eyeshadow brush. So this one should work for most eye shapes and eye sizes. And then you have that really nice taper here that allows you to do the outer corner as well, or just blend throughout the socket. Really nice one to have because it's extremely soft and won't irritate your eyes whatsoever. Like you could probably jam this, I'm not saying you probably could, you could jam this into your waterline and you'd feel fine. In comparison, the smaller 146, this one is going to be even more precise. So if you're doing cut crease or other detailed work, this is probably the one that you'd want to reach for, or if you have very small eyes or you want to keep your eyeshadow very precise. So like something I like doing is doing just like color underneath where my crease is, so the mobile lid. So this brush would be able to just lay it down right there. These are both squirrel. The small one is made of, oh dear, is this horse or goat? It might be horse. Okay, so this one is horse, and then this is a pencil brush. So it's excellent at blending out because it's really, really strong. So if you do pencil liner and you smudge it out, or if you do pencil liner and you go back over it with powder shadow to soften it up, this is a great brush to do it. Hakuhodo's horse is exceptionally soft. If you have super sensitive, you might want to stay away with it, but for the majority of people, I think you will be quite impressed and like their horse eye brushes, especially if you like efficiency, because they're really, really quick. So this one is almost like a bullet shape. I don't have any pencil brushes here that are smaller and finer. They'll be in other videos, but I'll show you what I mean by this is more of a detailed brush this way rather than a shadow liner brush like I can do with some of their other brushes. So, and then of course it fits in the inner corner nicely. Moving on to their flat brushes. There's 2 blending flat brushes in the S range. One of them is the 5523A. So this is goat. And the other one is the 5523B. So you have horse mixed in. Again, the horse one is going to be a stronger blender compared to the S5523A. And that spiel earlier about their horse being great still stands for this brush. Surface area wise, about the same again. The difference between these 2 brushes is what kind of formula you're working with. If you work with a very thick cream, you're going to want to go for the horse brush. So like if you're using MAC Paint Pot or you're doing the Maybelline color tattoos, the horse one is going to pick up, deposit, and blend much better than the pure goat one is. The pure goat one does feel softer and does feel more flexible. Moving on to the flat paddle eye brushes. We've got these 3. Let me rearrange them. So you have the 121, S121, made of squirrel. This is a larger eye brush. As you can see, it covers quite a bit of area, if my camera will decide to focus any day. But because of the side shape, you have this extreme taper that allows you to do precision work. For example, again, just applying color underneath that crease line for me, or to line the corner of the eyes near the lash line or near the waterline. And because this is soft, this will work really well there. No irritation whatsoever, and it just feels really, really good. One step down is the 127. This is made of horse. So this again will be for your cream shadows or ones with trickier and more firm textures to work with and blend. This one also makes a good under eye concealing brush because you can kind of pat it in there, spread it out, and blend it. Something I forgot to mention for this brush, the 5523B and 5523A, is that they also make pretty good under eye concealing brushes. Going back, here's the 127, here's the 133. So you just have a little bit of a step down in size, and you still have the same extreme taper shape. So between these two, the main difference is, well, I'm actually not sure what the difference is. Let me see. Nope, they're both horse and synthetic. They're just slightly different in shape. So this one does have a round, and this one is a little bit more tapered, but functionally they're the same for me. I personally have the 133. Moving on to the small flat eye brushes. There's ones with a slight angle, and there's one that are sort of this straight dome across. So this little tiny brush here, the 149, is going to be good for inner corner work, and again for lining the lash line, waterline, and you could use this as a brow brush if you wanted to. Something I've seen artists like Ray Morris do is like take a small brush like this, you put a little bit of highlight right underneath the eyebrow or right above it, depending on which way they want to highlight the orbital structure and push the face out or in or lift it, whatnot. So great detail brush to have for the eyes. Slightly stout one, this is the 140. So this one is going to be more of a straight across usage, as well as for brows, for if you're wanting to do them really, really quickly. So the difference is mostly in length. We've got a little bit more flexibility here, and width, which determines how fast you do your work. Next up, we have the ones that have a slight angle. So you have the 151, which is the big one, and the 150, which is the small one. This is like probably the only role reversal. Normally, the bigger the number, the smaller the brush. So with these, with this angle, you can get in much closer to a mirror and still line with precision, versus if it was like the straight across ones, you'd pretty much have to use it perpendicularly. With this angle, it allows you to get a lot closer into the mirror if you're myopic. And again, you have a little bit more control with placement because you can see better. So for example, I would have to use this brush straight on like this. Whoops. With this one, I can use it more from the side like this. So you can see my hand is here versus here. So that's what these angled brushes are great for. And again, for doing powder through the eyebrow. I should have mentioned that these are not great for pomade, but it's good for if you just use shadow to put through your brows to kind of make them look a little bit fuller. If you use pomade, you'll enjoy the 163 more. It's made of water badger, and water badger is known for its, well, resilient properties. So small, pretty short, and really precise. You can draw them on pretty much any way you want to. If you prefer a synthetic for it because you don't want to wash natural hair so vigorously, you have the 163 HS. Oh, so this is horse. Oops. Thought that was synthetic. Oh, my bad. This 180 is synthetic. So you have a horse eyebrow brush and then you have a water badger eyebrow brush. And they're both pretty small at the tip. Yep. And then you have the Masako portable eyebrow brush, and it's pretty much the same. A little bit longer, but functionally it acts the same. And then lastly, you have the 165. This one's a bigger one again. So it's like the difference between these two. The longer one's going to apply stuff faster. This one, the difference is it's wider at the tip. So then you get much more of a smudged out effect quickly. So while with the thin one, you can really draw strokes in. This one is like a pure filling brush. And if you want a sharp edge on it, you'd have to take a flat brush like the S180 to clean up the edge with concealer. So the two synthetic brushes or three rather, one of them doesn't really count. The S180 works as a lip brush, an eyeliner brush, and basically anything you might need a synthetic brush for. It's extremely flat at the tip. And then that cut straight across allows you to do a lot of precise line work. So if I was doing that, like I said, cleaning up under or over the brow with concealer. And if you want a very, very precise lip brush, there's the 181. So you can really line it or smudge out lip liner, eyeliner. This would be pretty much the only brush in the S series, unless you want to use the big one for it, or you want to use the angled 150 for eyeliner. This will give you a pretty thick line though. So if you want an eyeliner in the S series, you've got the 181. Last two brushes are a spoolie on a very nice handle. This is the 194 standard spoolie. And then you've got a brow brush with horsehair on this end, and then an eyelash comb on the other end. So the eyelash comb is for removing clumps in your mascara and kind of fluffing and fanning them out. And then this eyebrow brush is for the foundation that got into them, and then just kind of brush them into shape. And then because I kind of like this shape, otherwise they're a little bit uneven, one's rounded, one's angled, so I kind of try to brush them into the same angled shape. So that's what these are for. That's the entire S series as is available to me in the showroom. I'm going to answer the comments, wrap up this video, and then do another series. I'm going to do the Kokotan series as well as the I series, the synthetic brushes, if my battery does not die on me. Do I feel like there's a difference in hair quality between the S series, the J series, and B series? Personally, I don't. I have tried it and tried a blind test before where I took the J series as well as the S series, like the J104 or it's now called the B104 and the S104, and I couldn't tell a difference. However, sometimes I had two different 103 brushes, and one did feel slightly softer to me. So it really does depend on the batch of hair. Oh, yes, thank you for that. Recommendations from this line. My top 5, it's not going to be a surprise. My top 5, the 531, the 110. Where are you? The 142, and I am sort of listing these in order of the ones I use most at home. The eye brush is great, but it's so low because I have a ton of other eye brushes to use. The face brush I genuinely do use a ton. Ones I use less is the 113, but these are all great. It's a 113, and then the 5523. All of these brushes, except for this one, the 531, the 110, the 113, and the 5523 are available in the other lines. The only one that's exclusive to the S line is the 142. In the other lines, I'm pretty sure it's not straight blue squirrel, it's a mix. So if you don't want to splurge for the S series brushes, go for these. The S15523A might now be called the B5523, but the essence is look for the goat one. I can't recommend this one because I don't have it yet, but I am planning to pick it up by the end of the day because when I was playing with it, I'm like, oh, this is really impressive. So it might show up in my brush videos later as a favorite. You're welcome. Hakuhodo does not sell Kolinsky brushes at the Hakuhodo USA location, nor do they sell the Kolinsky brushes internationally because international orders ship out from Hakuhodo USA here because of the CITES regulations, and they ban certain types of hair from coming across, and Kolinsky gets caught in a crossfire. So Hakuhodo decided, no, we're not doing Weasel or Kolinsky, so I can't talk about those brushes, unfortunately. Let's see, the S141. It's not the same in the US store. Yes, Hakuhodo's customer service is really great. Like if you're unsure about several brushes, like for example these three, you can ask about them and they will give you pretty specific details to help you pick the best one. You're welcome. I'm happy to have the info to provide to you. Ordered the 531 in December and adore it. Yeah. So that's gonna be the wrap up for the S video. I think I'm going to switch gears a bit, do the I series, and then wrap up with the Kokutan. So I'll be back in about half an hour because it's going to take me that much time to organize and sort of prepare everything so I have it in a logical flow to give to you guys. See you soon. Bye.